You are welcome to the Procurement Podcast with Enim Ado. Today, I'm truly excited to be with you once again on the show. We have an exceptional professional in the procurement supply chain profession. He has over 20 years experience in the private sector, public sector, and non-governmental institutions. He is the CEO of SourceOne Management Services Limited and currently the Procurement Consultant for the Public Financial Reforms Project under Ministry of Finance that is funded by the World Bank. He has 3 fellow status. That is the fellow from Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply, a fellow from the Institute of Project Management Professionals, and a fellow of Ghana Institute of Procurement and Supply. He is no other but Mr. Simon Annan. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Edmado. Thanks for having me. I'm also excited to be on your show. And thank you very much for that generous introduction. I'm excited to be here with you this afternoon to have a chat with you.
Yeah. So today we're having a live chat with you on your whole life as a professional in procurement, from how you began the educational sector through to your experience. So I would like to know, how did you begin your education?
Okay, and thank you very much for the opportunity this afternoon. My educational journey has been inspiring. That's what I can say. So it started from the secondary school at TIMADIA Secondary School. I mean from primary SS, but let me say that I went to secondary school at TIMADIA Secondary School in Kumasi. Did business management, finished up and pursued my diploma program at Kumasi Polytechnic. At that time, when you finish secondary school, you have to wait for a number of years before you enter. You have to go and write entrance exams. I wrote the entrance exams, but I had to pursue the procurement and supply HND. So I finished the HND. And at that time, I was going to do procurement and supply. I didn't know anything about procurement and supply. Of course, in accounting, you learn something called purchasing. But I didn't know it was a profession, and I didn't know it would take us this far. So when I got in, I had an advice that it's it's a new program that is being introduced, and it has a lot of future. So I should try it. I finished. As soon as I finished, I was offered the opportunity to do my service in school as teaching assistant. So I did that, and then I finished up after a year and got a job just as I was about to finish with a company called ATS. And whilst I was there, I wrote the CIPS, because at that time I decided to go into the professional territory instead of looking at the academic. Okay, so the professional qualification was Chartered of Procurement Supply UK, and I chartered within 2 years. I did my master's with Paris Graduate School of Management in Paris in project and strategic management. Finished up, and during that period, I also had an opportunity to be awarded 3 fellows. And the first fellow I got was the fellow of Chartered of Procurement Supply UK, and it's the highest accolade within the profession. And at that time, we were I think about 8, and I was the youngest among them. And now we are not still many. We are about 16, between 14 and 16. Maybe within Africa, we are less than 40. So I count myself one of the luckiest person. But it hadn't also come as rosy. It took a hard work and more contribution to the profession to be able to attain that status. So fellow of CIPS, fellow of Institute of Project Management Professional, and then also fellow of Ghana Institute of Procurement and Supply. And fortunately, I decided to pursue my academic prowess by furthering the education. So in January, of course, I had an admission with one of the top universities in UK to do my doctoral studies, focusing mainly on researching into supply development initiative, its impact on national development and growth. So that has been my educational journey. So from HND level, and now I'm happy to say that I'm pursuing my doctoral studies, and very soon I would be part of the class, as it were. So that is it. Yeah.
Wow, that's an exciting journey through education, and it's beautiful. I really want to be like you someday.
Okay.
But looking at your journey, how did you land your first job? Looking at how much that the course was was a new course being introduced by university or by the institution as at that time. Didn't you ever fear that you may not land a job after education?
In fact, as I said, it was a new thing, a new area. Nobody knew what was going to happen. I mean, the fear of unknown. You could agree with me on that. So when we finished, a class of 42, but a lot of people had to divert because we didn't know the future was going to be bright like that. But I said, fine, I've finished the program. But what happened to me, unfortunately, I was selected to be the teaching assistant at the Polytechnic, and now the Technical University in Kumasi. So during the service, then I had an opportunity to attend an interview. So I was there when a friend said, oh, there's a job vacancy. They're looking for HND graduates for procurement position. So I applied. Fortunately, they called me for interview. The interview were about 12 or so. And then let me also say that it was a very rigorous interview because that was my interview. I mean, my first interview, sorry. So I attended the interview at 12. But at that time, as you said, the HR managers didn't know what procurement was all about. Most of the company didn't even understand procurement because the procurement function had been subsumed into the finance. So definitely the financial directors and who were supervising procurement are going to buy procurement. And even as a nation, we didn't know what procurement was. I mean, everybody was buying their own thing without any procurement framework as we have today. So I attended an interview. When I attended, I saw that the head of HR had that we used in school license in procurement and supply. What the book I've read cover to cover. So the question that he was asking, what is this? How do we do this? I realized it's coming from some of these things that I've learned. And trust me, I also prepared for the interview. So when I finished, I knew that I had done well in the interview. But trust me, I could also say that I was going to be the first choice. So when I finished, came back to Kumasi, and then within 2-3 days they called me that I'd qualified for that job. So I should come and take my appointment letter. And I came to Accra, took my appointment letter. So excited because at that time the pay was good. So that's how I landed my first job. And trust me, that has actually propelled my career up to this time.
Wow. Then someone would say that yours is by grace landing of that mighty job.
It is. Yes, it is by grace. I don't want to say that it was my effort. It was by grace because, as I said, a class of 42, but half or more than half had to find other things to do, marketing and HR and stuff like that, because those days these were the professional. These were the professions that were actually reigning. I mean, people were marketing guys and stuff like that. So procurement was nowhere to be found. But trust me, we took a good decision by the grace of God. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to ask, looking at the time you began up until now, what has been the evolution of procurement from the time you began up until this time?
Elimado, let me tell you, to be honest with you, there has been a lot of changes. The evolution is enormous and it's massive. You can't even think of it, because if you look at the year 2000 that we finished school, Ghana did not even have a law. There was no Procurement Act. The Procurement Act came to being at 663 in 2003. So you ask yourself, at that point in time, how was the country procuring? Because there was no legal framework, okay? So, and most of the company didn't even know what procurement was about. They thought that procurement is just going to the market and buy something, okay? They didn't know that it is actually a profession. So procurement at that time was treated as a tactical and operational thing. And I've even heard that those days, when you wanted a CEO wanted to punish a staff, so go to the stores or go to the procurement, because it was not regarded, and it was profession that way. It was reserved for probably the second class citizens. Okay, but through it all, and with the effort that we put in from that point to now, and the changes and the global requirement of our time, procurement has now become a strategic function. And any institution or any nation which sunlight procurement is doing it to their own peril. Why am I saying this? Because the procurement is what we use to develop a nation. Procurement is so strategic that it brings the value that we are all looking at. So now we are talking about developmental aspect of procurement. We are talking about the entire supply chain system. We are talking about the risk management. We're talking about the public good. So if you want to have a public good, it's procurement that comes to play. So procurement has transformed, and now we have a framework. We have a system. We have laws that governs procurement. So now procurement has changed, and all of a sudden people have realized that procurement is a profession. Now procurement commands a lot of respect. So it has transitioned from that technical and tactical and operational regime to now more strategic role, and that's what we have, what we call the strategic sources. So procurement actually has moved from a stage of buying, purchasing, to the stage of procurement. So that's the reason why the name has changed from purchasing to procurement. Why? Because procurement thinks about strategic intent, while purchasing talks about the tactical and the operation. So now the procurement is more of value adding. How do I use procurement to develop my country? How do I use procurement to enhance my operation? How do I use procurement to save costs? How do I use procurement to enhance my innovation as a country? And how do I even automate? So now we are talking about EPROC, automation of procurement. It wasn't there. You understand it? So now the procurement has evolved in such a way that the process of procurement can be automated, and that's the reason we have EPROC. Now procurement even contribute to what we call sustainability. Okay, so we are looking at how our action as buyers impact the larger community, which was not there at that time because we were buying. Okay, but right now that we are purchasing or we are procuring, we are thinking about sustainability, how our actions affect planet, how our actions affect people, and how our actions affect profit. So these are the three things that we are thinking about, and how ethical our actions could be. So there has been a lot of changes, a lot of revolution. And if you have to talk about evolution of procurement, it's going to take about five hours for us to talk about it. But as I said, there has been a lot of evolution from where we started in 2000, early 2000, till now 2021. I mean, now we're talking about e-procurement. Who knew e-procurement at that time? No, but it's now happening. Okay, so the transformation is massive.
Yeah, so you mentioned e-procurement.
Yeah.
I want you to state, do you think in Ghana as a country, we are properly applying the EPROC in our systems? And if not, how then can we revise our EPROC systems?
So EPROC is also a subject that I'm passionate about it, because I've done a little research about EPROC. And I can assure you that any country who implement EPROC end to end saves with between $200 million and above, depending on the size of the spend. Okay. And why am I saying this? So The eProc system, which is the procure to pay, and let me just also, for the purpose of the viewers, explain what eProc is. So when you talk of eProc, it's the electronic procurement system. So the electronic procurement system, it's a system, a platform, a digitization of where we automate the end-to-end procurement process. So from inception to payment. So whenever there's identification of need, it has to be automated. And when we issue PO, when we award contract, and when we pay. So that system of automation, that process automation is what we call electronic procurement. So Ghana has actually embarked on electronic procurement. I think it started implementing the system from 2007 or 2008. Of course, and the system is called GHANEF. So they've started, which I understand is being financed by one of the World Bank projects. Good. So that system, when we implement it as a nation and we look at the end-to-end automation, it's going to save us not less than $200 million a year. Why am I saying this? So our tendering process, where it is mandated that we advertise all our tenders in the papers, we have over 1,500 procuring entities. So if every entity now advertise minimum of 5 or even 7 tenders a year in the newspaper, and normally you have to do it in 2 newspapers. So we have graphic, we have Times and stuff like that. So you calculate 1,005, multiply by 7 or 10, okay, and then you multiply by the amount that they pay. Huge. That is one aspect. The other aspect is that the supplier or the vendor who want to apply, who sits in Takoradi or sits in Cape Coast, and they have seen the advert, they have to come to Accra to buy the form, the cost of transportation, the risk involved, and stuff like that. So that cost also has to be calculated. And apart from that, when they finish preparing the document, they have to submit it, because the law requires that there should be an open tender, public opening. So it has to come. If it doesn't even come, he has to get a rep to be there. You have to submit it manually. So in submitting it manually, it's also a cost. Okay, the paper we use in printing some of these things are costs. You know, so the cost of procurement is huge. And when we automate this, it would help us to save that cost. Apart from that, there are evaluation panels that also sit down and evaluate evaluate. So you not talk about their per diems and other things and the hotel that they go and sit in. And then so the eProc concept is probably the best thing that if Ghana embraces it, it's going to save us annual a minimum of 200 million. And you know the $200 million, what it can do for the nation. So Ghana is implementing it, but the implementation has to be assimilated and has to be embraced by every institution, so that we automate our end-to-end processes. Why are we advertising things still in graphic or in papers, newspapers? We have to automate it so that anybody who has hooked on, or any supplier who has hooked on that platform will get notification, submit it online. You are sitting at home, evaluation is done electronically, award is done electronically, PO is generated electronically. You submit, you receive your PO, your contract, you supply, and the payment is also done electronically. So the GHANEF is actually going to be integrated through GIFMIS, that's the Ghana Financial Management Information System, and then the Hyperion, what is the budget. So that is the flow. So the budget of government of Ghana has to be fed with GHANEF, and then the GHANEF has to also be interfaced with GIFMIS. So we have end-to-end. So from the budget, execution, and then the payment. And if that happens, as I said, a minimum of 200 million every year. So the eProc system is something that we have to champion it, and I'm encouraging the PPA and PPA team that they have to go ahead and execute. Now they have implemented the quotation, the request for quotation model, but it goes beyond request for quotation. We have to automate the end-to-end process of our procurement system in the country. And for me, that is what I've been championing, and I hope that it's going to be implemented sooner than later.
Yeah, thanks for the elaborate explanation on the eProc. currently, you know that for me, I'm one person who really advocates for the implementation of EPROC across every institution, because you know the value that it brings to corporates, to corporations. That's for the value savings and the quality and delivery system. So EPROC value cannot be underestimated. And it is high time we accelerate, as you said, we accelerate in the implementation of that in our country.
Let me even add that I think Ghana or the West Africa, we are lagging behind in terms of this system. I mean, when you go to East Africa, go to Zambia, our government procurement is automated. From end to end, the tendering is automated. What is holding us? E-Transform project, which is financed by the World Bank, has started implementation of EPROC. We have to assimilate it. And when we assimilate it, it's also, listen, EPROC benefit is so enormous, okay? To cut down the corruption, the procurement corruption in Ghana, the system we will use is EPROC. If really we are interested in cutting down the corruption, and as everybody says that corruption, a mandate from procurement, if you have to cut the corruption or eliminate or reduce the corruption, it's e-procurement. Because as soon as we take off the human interface, the corruption reduces by 60–80%. Okay, so the e-procurement for me is a huge deal that as a country we have to look at it.
Thank you for your wonderful explanation. So moving on, I want you to tell us, how do we create recognition for procurement, both in the public sector and the private sector? Because see, it's as if the value of procurement is not really embraced in our country here. And people don't really see how important that we drive change in the institution. We look at the bottom line, the profitability, the quality services, and even the customer satisfaction. I want to ask, how then do we build a brand where procurement is really accepted and recognized as a profession that brings value to the entire institution?
Okay, so the procurement issue is not only in Ghana, across the entire globe, and most importantly, Africa. I mean, all the African countries are lagging behind when it comes to procurement recognition. And as a country, that is what is lacking. When you go to the private sector, they don't also recognize the role of procurement. There are few companies that they have procurement or supply chain directors sitting at the board level. We don't have it. So as soon as we take that out, then there's a problem. How then can you say that you have an officer managing 60% of your spend and that officer is not recognized? How then can you say that you are a CEO of a company, okay, and your procurement officer is an officer level? It's not even a manager level. It's not at a director level. And when I meet the CEOs, I tell them that if you want to have your peace of mind in procurement, bring somebody who would sit at a director level so that you can talk about procurement. So all the issues that we have in the country, okay, is because the procurement are not managed by people who are supposed to manage. They are not professionals. And because they are not professionals, that's why they do all these things. Get the professional people to manage. So as I sit here, I'm a professional person. People handle procurement, and these are accountants. These are HR people. These are probably engineers. Where did you get the certification from? Okay, procurement is a profession. If you are not trained to do procurement, stay away. That's why we say stay away. Otherwise, you bring and if you look at the procurement issues that are going on in the country, okay, are being caused by non-procurement professionals. Why am I saying this? As I speak to you, okay, I'm a professional. I'm a fellow of an institute. So if I'm taking any procurement decision, I know the repercussion. Okay, so if a lawyer or if an accountant is taking if a politician is taking a procurement decision, he doesn't know what it's about. Okay, and people think that they can do procurement. And madam, I just want to put on record that procurement profession looks simple, but its application is complex, and we have to take it. It's complex because the money that we are using to buy is not my money, it's not your money. It's the taxpayers' money, and we are accountable for it. And because it's taxpayers' money, we are accountable for it, it has to be governed by processes, systems, a legal framework or legal regime, okay, and it has to be done properly, and that can only be achieved when we have a profession which is well recognized. And if it's not recognized, then there's anybody can do anything. Why would people or anybody get up and say, I'm a procurement professional? What kind of certification have you got? Or what have you gone through? What training have you gone through? Okay, can you get up and say you're a lawyer? Can you get up and say you're an accountant? Can you get up and say you're a doctor? Yes. So why can somebody get up and say, I'm a procurement professional? Procurement professional from where? Who trained you? Which professional body do you belong to? I belong to CIPS. I belong to GIPS. Okay, I'm a fellow. So I can hold myself, say I'm a procurement professional. And that's the reason why I bring value to organizations. So any organization that I've worked, I've brought value. And you can check wherever I've worked. You understand it? So the profession has to be recognized in Ghana. Okay. So what I'm also advocating for is that for us to get recognition, we have to now get what we call the practicing bill to back the profession. We have Act 663 as amended. That is the act for implementing the procurement. But what is the legal regime for the implementers? So as I sit here, I'm an implementer. I implement procurement rules and regulations, but there's no law backing me. So we advocating for the LI, okay, to back the procurement. And I want to assure you that the Institute is working on it, and very soon we'll present to the Parliament for them to look at it for us, so that we'll have a law backing the profession, as the lawyers have it, as the doctors have it, medical doctors have it, as the engineers have it, as even the marketers, now they have the law. In HR, they have the law. So the same way the procurement would also have the law to back it, so that our profession can be recognized. And the last thing I also want to say about this is that because we need a recognition, that people who are practicing procurement has to also be ethical. Because procurement is now equated, or is now synonymous to corruption. That's what we have to move away. So when you tell people I'm a procurement professional, then he looks at you from a different way. But trust me, we are professionals, and it has to be, because that's a profession I went to school to learn. You understand it? And that one, I have to do it professionally, because I belong to an association, and that association that I belong to have ethical standards. We have training, we have certification. So as soon as I mess up with my fellowship in Ghana here, CIPS UK will invoke my license, and I cannot practice. And that is what we want to do. That anybody practicing procurement will belong to that institution, the Ghana chapter. We will have a law to back it, so that in case you are not part of it, you practice procurement, and there's an issue, the law will take its course. I mean, I don't want to say to cut down corruption, but trust me, when we do it properly, all these issues will be resolved.
I like one thing you said. You said that if you're not trained to be a professional, stay away.
Stay away.
Stay away.
Stay away. Yes.
Because seriously, the damage is bringing to the true ones. Yeah. It's bad.
Look at the procurement scandals in the country. How many procurement professionals are involved?
Yeah.
Okay, most of them are not procurement professionals. Of course, we can have one or two which is obvious. I don't want to talk about it, but majority of it are not trained procurement professionals, and we have to move away from that. But it will be resolved when we have a practicing bill regulating the professionals in Ghana.
Thanks for that comment. I think later we'll come and talk about how to build an upcoming generation to take over the procurement space. I think we'll talk about that later.